Okay, welcome back, everyone. Nice to see you again. So before we get started on our meditation, I want to introduce you to our director. Her name is Pema Wangmo, and she was born in Tibet, but she grew up in India, and she is our fearless leader from Tushita, and she has a short message for you.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Greetings from Tushita. So first of all, I want to thank all the donors who made generous amount of donations for past 2 weeks. So I want to thank you so much for all the donors. And then I want to take this opportunity to request all of you to make donation as much as possible. Because of the lockdown, we don't have courses running, and so when we don't have the courses, so we don't have any money coming in. So but still we have expenses like paying our local staffs and paying electricity bill, water bills, and we have few sanghas and few people staying at the center, so we do have expenses. So please make donation as much as possible so that we can meet all these expenses while we are in lockdown, and also make donations so that we can continue this particular online session as far as possible. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy the sessions.
Thank you, Pema.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so as usual, let's set up our meditation posture. Allowing your back to be straight and your body to be relaxed. And then bring to mind a positive motivation and intention for doing this meditation in this class. Thinking about how even this simple act of working on our own minds can have far-reaching effects in relieving the suffering of all beings in the world. And then when you're ready, you can take three 3 deep breaths to relax even more deeply, settling your body on each exhale. Letting any tension you may still be holding in your body to just drain away. And then bring your awareness to your breath at your nostrils. Holding that awareness of your breath lightly and following the whole cycle of the in-breath and the gap and the out-breath and the gap and so forth. And then I'd like to shift your focus from the breath, the content of the mind, to the awareness of the breath. So shift your focus to what is usually in the background, the consciousness of the breath, and bring it forward. So that space of the mind. Awareness itself. So although you may still be aware of the breath, it's not the main focus. The main focus is this stillness, this clarity, the brightness of awareness, of consciousness that is always present. And if anything comes up to try to draw you away, just let it go, like a water bubble popping, and return to awareness, the observer, the watcher. And stay with that stillness, with that awareness, like a mountain. Many things happen on a mountain, but the mountain itself doesn't move. Your awareness is like a mountain, with whatever is arising on it, doesn't disturb it. And if emotions or thoughts arise, you might notice them, but you don't give them any attention or energy or follow them. You notice them and let them go. And notice how calm and peaceful it is to identify with this aspect of the mind. We are not our thoughts, our emotions. Okay, and then start to bring yourself out of the meditation slowly. Okay, welcome back. So let's do some review from yesterday. So yesterday we talked about this process of how suffering comes about. And in this class, we have addressed these different steps in different ways. So when we were talking about how this harmful action, if we've done a harmful action and we don't want the resulting suffering, okay? If we want to stop the harmful action that we cause, the karmic seed that we have planted on our mind stream with a harmful action from resulting in suffering, then we do purification. So we talked about that. Now, if we want to stop in between the afflictive emotion and the harmful action, okay, we talked about in particular anger. We didn't go much into attachment, but if anger arises in us and we don't want it to result in harming someone else or a negative action, then we can apply the antidotes. So we talked about patience and loving kindness and thinking about things differently. So when anger arises, then counteracting it so it doesn't result in a harmful action. And then we also talked yesterday about the misperception that leads to the afflictive emotions. And the misperception is this belief that there is an external absolute reality that exists out there separate from my mind, and that it inherently is positive, negative, or neutral. And if I see things that way, then my wish to like reject them in anger or hold on to them in attachment, grasp at them, is what causes the afflictive emotion, which causes the harmful action, which causes the suffering. And that misperception of the inherent existence of, you know, something being inherently beautiful or inherently attractive or inherently unattractive or inherently harmful is this ignorance plus the feeling, the ignorance that things exist separately from my mind, and a feeling that I get whenever I contact anything. So conditions arise. For example, like I used the example of someone coming in and yelling at me. That condition arises, I have a negative feeling, and then I have the misperception that that person is inherently negative, and anger arises, and I hurt them, and it results in suffering. Okay, so then if we want to stop that process at the root, at the ignorance, then we have to start to look at how things actually exist. And we analyze this through our reasoning in meditation. And we start to see that there is no independently existent thing out there that is separate from my consciousness that is observing it, that things just don't exist in that way, that things are dependent arisings. So we start to analyze how things exist and start to see that things are much more, much less concrete, much less absolute than we believe them to be, usually, because that's the way they appear. Okay. So dependent arising, which is the support for this concept of emptiness, the fact that things arise dependent on other things. Nothing exists independently. And because things exist dependently, they have no absolute reality or inherent existence on their own. And mind is one of the causes of existent things. Consciousness must be present in order for things to exist. So we talked about the example of the song. where we could not find an absolute existent song that existed somewhere separately from all the causes and conditions that went into it, and also from my mind labeling it a song. Okay, so this is the way in which we start to break up this idea of a separate absolute reality that can somehow have inherent positive or inherent negative. And so then we recognize that the difficulty in seeing things as empty in the way that they appear is that they don't appear dependently. They appear to exist concretely, absolutely. And this is something that you have to examine for yourself. When you look at a cup, do you see a cup as existing independently, or do you see all the causes and conditions that went into making it, including your labeling it a cup? Okay, so the more you meditate on this, the more you get used to seeing things much less as this, concrete, absolute, out there, inherent from their own side, independent existence. And when we recognize that they are empty of existing in this way, things become less solid, more like an illusion, more like a dream. And because our mind participates in our reality, when we change our mind, we change our reality. So we have this ability to influence our surroundings by starting to shift our perceptions of them. Okay, so we have a completely different experience of something if we see it in a different way. And eventually, because we decrease our negative emotions, we change our minds, we decrease our negative emotions, we stop creating the conditions to have suffering experiences happen to us. So eventually we get rid of this completely, all the negative emotions, and we create the conditions for us to have only happiness, only positive experiences. So one of the ways in which we start to reflect the fact that that things are interdependent, like we did the meditation on the body yesterday, seeing that the body is an interdependent phenomenon, that there really is no such thing as my body that is somehow separate from everything else, that it is dependent on so many different things, that we rely on the people to make our clothes, to grow our food, to teach us, even to teach us to make a living, to function within a company, to get a salary, to support ourselves. So much interdependence. And this is another aspect of this dependent arising, that ourselves, if we talk about the body as an aspect, part of ourselves, that it cannot exist without interaction, without interdependence with other beings. And so then what naturally follows from that is this idea that if I want to be happy, it makes no sense for me to only focus on my own happiness. I also have to take into consideration other beings' happiness. And that's when we start looking at the concepts of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is an aspiration, it is a wish, and it is based on this interdependence nature that we have, that I cannot possibly be happy unless I am also taking into consideration the happiness of others. So let's look at this bodhicitta thing. Sometimes bodhicitta is called the awakening mind because it has to do with we have to have this aspiration and this wish in order to become awakened. It has to become part of, it's not only seeing things as they actually are, but it's also having this attitude. So it starts with a warm heart. And I'm sure you've all felt this warm heart. When you feel love towards someone, when you feel affection towards someone, whether it's a parent or a child or a pet or a partner or a friend, it's that opening, that heart opening feeling when you feel connected to someone, when you feel like you love them, you want them to be happy, and you're just happy that they're in your life. That's that warm feeling in your heart. And everybody has that. Everybody knows what that feels like. And bodhicitta is about expanding that and developing that. Okay, it's also, it is this wish for others to have ultimate satisfaction. So it isn't about only having temporary sense pleasures, but it's also this idea of, like us wanting to be free from suffering completely, that we want others to also be free from suffering. So we start looking at what are some of the causes of lasting happiness and wanting others to have that as well. And so then in order for others to have that, we have to recognize that all beings have this potential for wholeness. Okay, wholeness is this, yeah, I don't want to go into that now. Okay, so Buddha nature, or our Buddha potential. We recognize that all beings have the potential to become awakened. And so then we commit to developing ourselves so that, for others, so that we can bring them to their wholeness, to their awakened state, to their enlightened state. Okay, so this bodhicitta is based on all this warm heart, the wish for others to be well. So it's an aspiration, it's a wish, it's a motivation, and it's a commitment that in order for me to actually be the most effective in benefiting others, I have to develop my own potential to its greatest extent. Okay, I have to be, you know, we talked about the fact that if you want to teach someone to bake a cake, you have to know how to bake a cake first. And so that's also true when we're talking about the spiritual path and leading others to their full enlightenment. We have to also be on the path and developing ourselves and working, you know, with our afflictive emotions and trying to rid ourselves of those. And we also have to start shifting our attitude to reflect this belief that we are interdependent, that we want others to be happy as much as we want ourselves to be happy. So bodhicitta becomes our motivation for anything that we do, no matter what it is. Whenever we're taking care of our basic needs, we're doing it so that we can develop ourselves, so that we can be of greatest benefit to others. And when, so, and it can be anything. There's a really good book that was, it's about His Holiness, an interview that was, some interviews that were done with His Holiness, and the author who wrote it, I can't remember the name right now. I think the last name is Kussler, but it's The Art of Happiness at Work. And he talks, one of the things that he does is he talks about even people who have what are considered very mundane, or, you know, kind of boring work, that they can make their work meaningful through this motivation that they are going to benefit others, that they are working, whatever they are doing is to benefit others. And even their connection to their co-workers and the people around them, that it becomes about bringing light and joy to their workplace. And so their lives become meaningful because of their focus on others, because of this commitment that that to bring kindness and light and joy, to develop themselves so they can be the best people they can for others. So this bodhicitta motivation becomes, like I said, the motivation for everything that we do. And we can start to practice this really easily. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you think about, first of all, you can think about the fact that you're really grateful that you didn't die. Okay, you didn't die overnight, because many people die overnight and you never know when it's going to happen, right? It's time of death is uncertain. And then the next thing you think is, I have another day to benefit others. So everything that I do today is going to be about how I can take care of myself so that I can be the best person for others. Okay, so how can I be more effective in my interactions? How can I be more kind to others? How can I balance my own life in a way that is not only about me, but also about others. So sometimes what happens with, if we're very much conditioned, because sometimes people who are attracted to Buddhism can get very conditioned to put others first without taking care of their own needs. So then burnout happens, and this sense of like, I'm not important, everybody else is more important than me. um, and this isn't the attitude I'm talking about, because we can't be effective, for others. The bodhicitta has this, both of this. I have to develop myself in order to benefit others. So if I completely ignore myself, ignore my own needs, ignore my own wants, put everybody else first, and then feel like overwhelmed and burned out and angry at the people that I'm helping, and then that's like defeating the purpose. And I think what sometimes happens is that we get really reinforced for taking care of others, and we start to think that the only way that we feel like we deserve to be loved is if we put everybody else first. So we get this message that somehow if you aren't taking care of others, then you're selfish, and that's not okay. But nobody ever teaches us to have this self-compassion and this self-love first. And that's what, from a bodhicitta point of view, you have to have that. You have to have strength. You have to have self-confidence. You have to you have to be healthy in order to benefit others. You have to develop yourself to the greatest extent you can. Okay. So now, it's a tough balance, isn't it? Because we can be so self-involved, even from, to the extent that we're trying to get others to love us, right? We're benefiting others so that they will love us, that we don't see that self-centeredness is actually a problem and creates a problem for us. And when we start to shift this idea, first of all, self, that is much more expansive than just this little me, this concrete, absolute, independent, unchanging me, that somehow has to be taken care of. Yeah, do you see how it's a tough balance? Because we're still talking about a self, but it's a different kind of self. It's a self that is interrelated to others, instead of a self that is somehow separate. So when we saw a quote when we were talking about the four immeasurables, we saw a quote in which our response to difficult situations can be this contraction, this I have to take care of me, I have to protect me. This can happen to us when we feel scared, when our survival is threatened. And yet, what the Buddhist teachings are saying is that really the best response in these difficult times is to open, to be more be more considerate of others. And actually that solves the problem better. It uplifts your mind, it uplifts your heart, and more you get taken care of because you are taking care of others. So I studied business for a really short time. I'm not a businesswoman at all, but there was this one management technique that we studied. And one of the things that they talked about was this tendency of businesses. When businesses start having troubles, like financial troubles and so forth, they tend to close down and shut in, right? And reject reject any advice. They try to hide it from their customers, hide it from their suppliers, and that sort of thing. And what they found was actually the more that companies shared and opened up and communicated, like with their suppliers, this is the difficulty that we're having a problem, in this kind of system, or getting this done in this way. And they opened up to their customers and they said, we're trying to provide you with this best service, but this is what's going on with us. That actually companies became more successful when they were able to do this kind of communication, when they were able to open up with all the aspects of their business. So like for management to say, oh, we're having a problem, and have these closed meetings and not connect with their employees makes no sense whatsoever, because their employees want their companies to succeed too. So it was about opening up instead of contracting. Okay, so this self-centeredness that we talk about is like this contraction. So there, one of the things that we can do is we can start to meditate on how this contraction, this self-centeredness into me only, and this sense of a separate self creates so many problems for us. If if we're only looking out for me and don't have this wider sense of self, we end up harming others. We end up hurting them because we think, oh, I have to get it and nobody else can have it. Okay, instead of seeing that it's actually, we're much more connected to that than that. We become easily offended because we expect others to treat us well. We walk around thinking that I am so important, and you should be nice to me, and you should give me things, and you should take care of me. And so then when people don't, we become all upset and like, oh, they are such horrible people. They didn't think about me. And I remember I used to do this. It's just crazy. And the opposite, when you're focusing on how you can be kind to others and how you can take care of others, is so much more joyful, so nice. It creates fear, self-centeredness, because we always have to protect what we have, and we have to protect ourselves, and everybody is the enemy, and it's the root of dissatisfaction, in the sense that if it's all about me and what I want all the time, then I'm never satisfied. There's never any gratitude for what I have. It's like, I need this, and now I need this, and now I need this, and now I need this. And then, of course, it creates conflicts between people and between countries and between communities, that if we're only looking out for our own needs, and there's no room for dialogue, for discussion, for trying to get, find some resolution of how everybody's needs can be met. That's what is actually creates harmony. And it blocks our spiritual progress. If I'm only looking out for me, there's no way I'm going to get free of my negative emotions. So then the opposite of that is cherishing others. So when we cherish others, then all beings are happy. We're happy and they're happy, because we don't exist as separate from them. So if we're trying to make everybody around us happy, it makes us happy. Our life becomes much more meaningful. We have purpose in our life. If I wake up every morning and I make a commitment that this day I'm going to use as positive as I can to develop myself to benefit others, then right there is my purpose in life. And there's no, I don't need to look any further for meaning in my life. It's right there. I've made it. And everything that I do becomes about that. And then we can become happy anywhere. And remember, I'm not saying that it's only about others, right? I'm also talking about taking care of ourselves so that we can benefit others. We have healthy relationships. If I am thinking about what other people need in my life, then I am more likely, they like it, right? They like it when I think about them. And when I think about them and I, think about what they need, and this includes even people who are difficult, not just our lovers, right? Somebody who is a little bit more, more demanding, or, less responsive. But the more that I think about them, the more they're going to feel comfortable, feel safe, and feel loving, that they're going to be more open and more willing to respond to me as well. Okay, it works that way. It's like this, this give and take. But sometimes we have to do it first, and sometimes we have to do it a little more. But yeah, it's so rewarding. Something you have to experience. So harmony increases in society, it increases in relationships, and then of course we create positive karma. We create the conditions for ourselves to continue to progress spiritually. So we can meditate on this and start to see that actually when we focus on others, when others become more important than a self that is separate, independent, closed down, we start to, create the conditions for us to progress, for us to be better people, for us to make the world a better place. And it's not, it's not the 10 Commandments. And it's not even, in Buddhism, we have something similar called the 10 non-virtues. It's not because there's some law that was handed down by the Buddha. It's not like that. I mean, he did teach it, but he didn't make it up. He just said, if you act this way, if you are kind to others, it comes back to you in such great ways, in such positive ways, like hundredfold, if you can do this. Yeah. Okay, so one of the ways that we practice having this attitude, having this state of mind throughout our day is a practice called Tonglen. And some of you may have heard of this before. It's a very popular meditation that we do, and Felipe is going to lead us in this meditation today. But I'm going to teach it to you first. So this is Tonglen, and these are the steps of Tonglen. So the first thing that you do is you imagine a person in front of you, and you start off with someone who it's a little easier for you to care about, to love. Sometimes you start off with yourself, but it depends. Sometimes people find it easier to feel kindness and love for someone else rather than themselves first. Sometimes you have to do yourself second, but it depends. So you imagine a person in front of you and you imagine their suffering. So they have some kind of suffering, even if, they could be sick, they could be going through financial difficulties, they could be, aging, it could be anything. They could be going through a breakup, whatever it is. And you imagine that the difficulty, the suffering that they're feeling right now is like a pollution, a type of, you could say like, a stinky kind of thick smoke. Okay, let's say that's what you imagine, that's the suffering that is inside them. And then you become willing, you have compassion for them, you have empathy for them, and you wish to take away their suffering. So you imagine that as you're breathing in, you're pulling that heavy, stinky stuff out of them, okay? And you pull it towards you, and you become willing at that point to take it on, to take their suffering into you, okay? Now you don't actually do that. It's not like you become sick, okay? What happens is that as you take on their suffering, it actually destroys your own self-centeredness, okay? So your tendency to contract now meets that suffering that was in them, and it's, you can imagine it as like a rock inside of you, or like a hard shell around your heart. And as soon as it meets that suffering, it breaks up, it explodes, it flashes into light, and it disappears. So your self-centeredness disappears and their suffering disappears. So you transform that darkness into light. And then you send from your heart, then you send out light, the light, your basic goodness in the form of love, of whatever they need, whatever support they need, medicine, healing, kind words, friends, hopefulness, strength, courage, whatever it is they need. And you imagine it going out to that person. And then you repeat it. So then you do it with the next person. And then you do it with someone who you don't know so well, like a stranger. And then you can do it with an enemy, someone who is more difficult for you to be kind to. And then you can even do like groups of people, you know, people like right now, the people who are sick in hospitals and scared, the people who have died, the people who have lost loved ones. And it just and it's not about the fixing other people, because it's about us training our own minds to be open to others, to be connected with others, to be willing to be compassionate, to be present with others, and then to give them love, to be kind to them. So it's a training. It's how we get our minds out of this tendency to you know, contract into ourselves, and instead we open, you know, we open more. I kind of did that fast. So we have more time for questions if you wanted to. Maybe we'll do questions just as usual, but we'll start the meditation a little earlier, because yeah, so we can get more people in for Tonglen. So if you have questions, go ahead and, oh, I have, before we start questions, let's see. Vishal Kaushik is his birthday. Happy birthday to Vishal. And he's not with his wife right now. He's in lockdown and they're separated. So he's here somewhere. Vishal, happy birthday to you. Let me make sure. We have a lot of, yeah. Everybody's saying happy birthday to you too. Let's see, Vishal, are you here?
Yep, he's there.
Oh, there you are. Do you wanna say something, Vishal?
I'll mute him.
Okay, there he is. Hi.
Hi, I want to thank you first.
Uh-huh.
And hi. And I want to say that last year on this day, I was in Tushita under my course. And again, I'm in a sort of in a way with you. So I'm really happy. Thank you so much.
Yes, good. Yeah, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. Thank you so much.
Okay, questions?
Okay, let me start with who's the first to ask? 1 second. Okay, Nidia. 1 second. I'm muting. Okay, there you go.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, so nice to see you again.
Yes.
So it's about, my question is about self-centeredness. I feel like I have been working on getting to be less self-centered in the past years. I find it hard as if part in me there was a part in me that was reactive and I cannot get rid of it. So sometimes I feel like it gets better for a while, but then oftentimes it's only because the situation is easier. So for example, when I travel or when you're away or when, you know, life is easier, it's easier as well to be less reactive. So I would be interested to see if you have any tips and maybe share a bit of how it happened for you, because you said you used to be more like that. So maybe your transition can be inspiring.
Yeah, I'll try. Yeah, reactivity. So reacting to situations in an emotional way, is that what you mean?
Yeah, like with anger, with frustration, irritation.
Okay. Okay. Well, my first thing that I think really happened was through meditation, I learned to be more calm in any situation. Like it just, I just don't react as quickly because my mind and my body are used to being calm. They're more used to observing the emotions rather than getting overwhelmed by them. So like the meditation we did today, you know, very much about being present with whatever is arising without reacting to it. And then I also think that I stopped getting so upset about things because I started to see that they were just not that important in the scheme of things. When you start thinking about the fact that we're all gonna die, that we're all in the same boat, you know, and I would ask myself very important, you know, how important is this? How really important is this? I would have to ask. And more, the answer was, it's just not. And when it was so very, you know, and when it was important, when I decided it was something that I needed to do something about, then I was much more clear and kind and effective, you know, in communicating when I didn't like what someone was doing, when I was needed them to act differently, because I just so much I could let go so much more easily of things, and really focus on what was important. Yeah, that's, I think, all I have.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, now moving on to Pooja. Pooja, you can now ask your question.
Who?
Yes, can
Oh,
you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, my question is, how can I practice cherishing others with a pure heart and gratitude and without expecting anything from them in return?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure I always know the answer to that one. You know, I think we just have to practice it. You know, sometimes it's easier with like pets or, you know, I think finding the experience when you can do it with someone like a child, you know, it's easier to do it with children because you already know that they don't know better. So when you can contact the experience of being more pure, you know, in your love without expecting anything, and then you get in touch with, what does that feel like? You know, how is that for me when I can contact that experience? I think it's easier with children or like puppies, you know, because you already don't expect, because they don't know better. Like a baby, you wouldn't necessarily expect to give back to you if you took care of them. You wait until they're older, right? So what is that experience like? What is that feeling of giving unconditionally? And then you can start to apply that feeling to someone who you tend to have more expectations of. So that's one way that you could do it. Let me see if I have anything else on that. Oh, not having expectations. Sometimes expectations are, you know, related to a sense of, if they don't behave in this way, then I can't be happy. So sometimes we have to really look at our motivations for having that expectation. What is the belief behind that expectation that, you know, if they act in this way, only if they act in this way will I be happy, and I can't live, or I can't be, you know, okay if they continue to act in a way that I don't like or I don't approve of. And is that really true? You know, that's sometimes a statement, a belief that we have in our minds that may or may not be true. So that's something else you could examine. Does that help? Oh, oh, there you go.
Yes, it did help a little bit. Yes, I'll continue to ask myself those questions. If the people I'm trying to uh, cherish or love do not reciprocate in the way that I would want to be, because in that case, it's again myself being self-centered rather than uh, looking into the needs of others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, um, not to the extent that you're hurting yourself. Like, I wouldn't want you to, let someone abuse you because they think that's what makes them happy. You wouldn't want to go to that extent.
Okay, yes.
Okay? If they're abusing you, then actually for you and for them, it's better if you stop that from happening.
Yes, yes. Oh, I get that now. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, now I'm moving on to Nancy. So Nancy, you can ask your question.
Hi. First, deep gratitude. Thank you for this course. It's something that I've been wanting to spend more time. I'm really new to Buddhism, so I'm getting so much out of this, and I'm finding myself changing just in these past 2 weeks.
Great.
The thing that I thank you that I struggle with is in my life. I've always been a caretaker, always taking care of others. And I've struggled and I've gotten much better at taking care of myself first. So I'm worried, but my tendency is always to if you sneeze, I feel bad, that's been my growing up, tendency.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like in what you're saying, I just want to be, how can I continue to protect my boundaries and not meld or mesh into other people and keep that dignity of self, I guess, but also care for others at the same time. That's what I'm concerned. That's what my question is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the way that I do it is I actually manage my time with others very carefully. And so I have to be on my own quite a bit in order to make sure that I am operating from my center instead of giving that locus of control away. So I have the same tendency to instead of operating from my own heart and my own wisdom, I very easily give away what other people need or what other people believe or what other people want. That it's like my center goes out of me into others. And so by spending time alone, I keep it within me. But then when so then I'm not tired, I'm not hungry, I'm not angry, I'm not lonely. And then when I interact with others, um, I keep it in myself more easily, and I keep that awareness of my own wisdom um, even when I'm present with others, because I'm strong and I figure it out when I'm on my own. So I think that's what I've worked to do is find that center and then keep my awareness of it. So keep it present, and then I'm less likely to be pulled away.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Good. Good.
Okay, now I'm moving on to Jyotsna. You can now.
Just a second, sir. I'll just give me a minute. I'll just call you, sir. Just a second. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to know: is it okay to focus on nature while meditating?
Well, it depends what kind of meditation you're trying to do. So if you're doing like mindfulness, open awareness of things around you, then yes, that's great. But if you're trying to develop your focus, it's a little bit more difficult because nature moves.
Mm-hmm.
So nature can be really nice for mindfulness, for being in the present moment, for calming down, you know, relaxing, opening the mind, especially, you know, outside with the sun and the sky. So it depends what kind of meditation you're doing.
Actually, even when in the morning when I'm meditating with you, what happens is there's sounds outside of the birds and all, and somehow I tend to focus on them rather than, you know, my own or my own self or my own awareness. So that's why I was asking you.
Okay.
I find it easier to focus on them.
Yeah, that's actually, if you're trying to develop focus on your breath, then the sound of the birds becomes a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So it,
Okay, so
like
I
I
should
said,
focus on.
yeah, it depends what you're trying to do. Are you trying to develop your focus, or are you trying to be calm and open and happy like that, and be in the present moment?
Okay. Okay. And another question I had, may I ask?
Sure.
Yeah. You know, at times when you're trying to even work for other people's happiness, say in an institution where I'm working, you know, my authorities may have a different agenda as compared to what I feel the subordinates need, and at times you do not know how to, you know, please both of them, and you genuinely feel, you know, that you care for the subordinates, and yet, you know, maybe it's the profits that the you know, authorities look at. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's tough. So let me see if I understand it. So sometimes what is best for the profits in the company is not what is best for you. Is
Or
that
the
what you're saying?
subordinates? No, for the
Or
subordinates.
for the subordinates, for the people who are working for you.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a balance, because in order for the subordinates to have a job, the company has to make a profit,
Yes.
right? But sometimes well, and if you go too much, you ignore the subordinates too much, then the company doesn't make a profit anyway, because the subordinates stop working very well. The quality of the work goes down, right?
Yes. Yes.
So balancing that, you know, I swear my stepdad was in management for a long time, and he would teach his employees about how, and involve them in the processes of the company, and get them on board with wanting the company to succeed. He would bring those two together through communication, through training. I remember him giving me an example of how there was some part, he made cars. He built factories that made cars, and there were women that worked for him that and he went through the factory and he picked up these pieces that they were like wasting, and he started talking to them about them and teaching them about them and showing them that how their work impacted the whole company, how they were a part of the company. And that was how he did it.
Not easy, is it?
No, because sometimes you have your bosses who are telling you to tell your subordinates, and you're right in the middle.
Yes. So
Yeah,
even
so
in this
then you go ahead.
you know, there are, even in this lockdown period, there are a lot of tough decisions which are being taken, and it does affect the, you know, so you feel very, you know, at times disturbed as to what to do.
Yeah, I know. It's not easy being a manager. It's really, and doing it with kindness and effectively at the same time is challenging. It's challenging. If you can do it with a good heart to the best of your ability, that's what's going to make, you know, the whole thing as successful as possible. Having a positive intention, even if you have to make some really difficult decisions.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Should we stop there?
As you wish, Venerable. We have maybe 3 more minutes if you want to do one more, or we can then go to the meditation.
Oh, let's go. No, let's go to the meditation, because I want us to get through as many people, like, you know, meditating on the Tonglen as possible.
Sure. Let's move
Okay.
into the.
Okay. Great.
All right. Should I show the image? Was that helpful?
Up to you.
No, I think we'll just go into it.
Okay.
All right. Everyone, please set up your posture. Go. Let's start with bringing some awareness to the body. Feeling nice and settled. Allowing the bell to bring you into the space of the body again. Using the opportunity to become grounded and stable. Connecting for a moment with the space of physical sensations. Grounding your awareness in this feeling of contact, of pressure. Noticing the weight of your own body. Letting it rest. And breathing deeply for a few rounds in order to allow the body to go back to its natural state. Experiencing a sense of calmness and relaxation. While maintaining alertness. And as your body and your mind settle down, simply give yourself a minute to experience this state of calmness, of serenity. No need to do much. Just be present, be aware. So in order to prepare ourselves for the meditation for Tonglen, contemplate on a few points. Start by thinking of the fact that all beings want to be happy, that they have basic needs such as food, shelter, being comfortable, feeling safe. And there's things that everyone wishes for, such as friends, possessions, satisfying job, and so forth. And also, all beings wish to be free of every kind of pain and problem, free of all suffering. So going into your heart, get in touch with these basic feelings that we share with everyone else, this common ground that joins us. Try to recognize that everything you do in your life is motivated by the wish to be happy and to be free of suffering. And that the same is true for all other beings. And don't feel that there's anything wrong with feeling this way. We all deserve to be happy and free from pain. So ask yourself, if we are all the same in wanting to be peaceful, happy, and satisfied, and not wanting to experience any unhappiness, pain, or problems, then is it right for me to care only for my happiness and my problems? And check what is the result of such a self-centered attitude. Does it bring you the happiness that you want and prevent you from experiencing the problems that you don't want? Trying to recognize that the self-centeredness is counterproductive. And trying to feel the wish to become less focused on yourself and more loving and caring toward others. Accepting that it is possible to transform your mind in this way. So you can start by manifesting, visualizing this self-centeredness in the form of a black, very tough, hard rock the center of your heart. And in front of you, allow an image of yourself, perhaps in the past or the future, to appear. This other version of yourself is surrounded by a thick, dark smoke, which symbolizes the sufferings that you have to undergo. So knowing how it feels to experience this suffering, allow yourself to give rise to the mind of compassion. Wishing in your heart. And as you do, inhaling with compassion, imagine that this thick smoke comes into your body to where this dark rock is. And this smoke harms the rock and it begins to destroy it. So as you take the suffering upon yourself, bring it to the self-centeredness to counteract it. And breathing in with compassion, wishing to be free of all suffering and all its causes. And once this rock has been completely destroyed, it explodes into pieces and disintegrates completely, uncovering underneath your highest potential for wisdom, loving kindness, and compassion in the form of a white light shining bright from your heart. So let this light shine from your heart towards this other version of yourself in front of you, giving rise to the wish of loving kindness. As you exhale, thinking, may I be happy and have all the causes and conditions for happiness and joy. Give yourself some love. Imagine the light transforming into whatever you would need to be happy and joyful. Now gently allow this other version of yourself in front of you to dissolve. And gently invite the presence of another person in front of you. This time you can bring up a loved one, a friend, a partner, a family member, whoever manifests more obviously to your mind. Feeling their presence in front of you. And once again, observing this thick, dark smoke surrounding them. You know that this person undergoes difficulties, perhaps physical problems, perhaps mental. So seeing how this person is suffering, give rise to the thought of compassion. And once again, visualize in this dark rock at the very center of your heart to counteract this self-centeredness. Inhaling with compassion, bringing in this dark smoke to destroy this rock of self-centeredness. Wishing from your heart to this person, may you be free of all your suffering. And as they become free of all their suffering, you become free of the self-centeredness in your heart. The rock is completely destroyed, obliterated. And once again, it allows the light within to shine very brightly. And so now you have the opportunity to give this person whatever they need to be happy. Exhaling loving kindness, shining this light bright upon them, transforming it into whatever they need, whatever they desire, granting all the happiness that they deserve, giving rise to the wish, may you be happy, joyful, peaceful, and love. And as this person has become free of all sufferings and endowed with all the happiness, notice how the person in front of you is now joyful. And you can also share that joy and gently allow that presence to dissolve. And this time inviting in front of you the presence of a stranger, a person who you might not be well acquainted with. Perhaps you don't even know their name. And yet, you know deep within your heart that this person is another human being just like you, who wishes to be happy and free of suffering. So once again, breathing in with compassion, take this dark, thick smoke of suffering from them into this dark rock of self-centeredness to get rid of both. wishing to the stranger, may you be free of all the sufferings that you have to go through. And once the rock has been destroyed, and once their suffering has been eliminated, once again, breathing out with loving kindness, giving all the love from your heart, all the good things from within you. Send it out to this person, thinking deeply, may you be happy. Enjoy. Breathing out with loving kindness, sending light from your heart to them. And as they become free of all suffering and happy and joyful, allow them to dissolve and simply stay with that feeling of joy, having helped somebody. Slowly coming out of the meditation, maintaining an awareness of compassion and loving kindness, we dedicate. May all beings everywhere, plagued by the sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and find in repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, and those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective, and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and may those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the mysteries of the world. Maybe so. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. And just a reminder, please, if you have the means to donate, and also next week we'll start again with another course on Monday. So you have 2 days off, and then we'll start again, same time, but we'll we'll be doing some more, we'll be going deeper. So we'll be doing some topics that we weren't able to cover in these first 2 weeks. So it won't be the exact same material that we already did. Okay, so please come back.
Thank you all so much. I just want to say that we've been receiving also a lot of appreciation messages, and I just want to send the love back to you all and to say that it's because of that, the fact that you're all here. This is also dependent arising. So if there weren't people, we wouldn't be having this courses. So I'm really, really happy that we could do this. Thank you so much, Venerable Drolma, for all the teachings, and thanks everyone for your presence. So I hope to see you very soon.
Yes. Have a good weekend.
Oh, one more thing. Sorry, before I forget. Tomorrow, we usually during the introduction courses have a day where we show a movie, a Dharma teaching. So we will try to set that up through Facebook. So if you're interested tomorrow and perhaps even the day after, we'll watch some videos. We'll do a watch party on Facebook. So be alert on Tushita's Facebook page in order to do that tomorrow all together. So have a lovely where you are. Bye.
Bye. Bye.